Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. And today we're looking into some pretty wild claims about AI, like shaking up the job market, even reaching sentience.
Yeah.
All this coming from a self-proclaimed AI expert, guy named David Shapiro.
Interesting.
And, our listeners, they sent us a ton of stuff on this guy, articles, videos, the works. Seems like everyone's trying to figure out, is he the real deal?
Yeah.
Or is there something a little off?
Well, it is interesting, like, how Shapiro's, these claims he's making, they're really tapping into anxieties people have, about the future of work.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with all the tech layoffs and everything.
For sure.
But we gotta separate, the genuine concern from, well, the hype.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Shapiro's main argument, it seems to be that all these layoffs we're seeing, especially in tech, it's because companies are secretly replacing their workers with AI, and they're covering it up with this whole four-phase cycle he talks about. Denial, downplaying, distraction, and finally acceptance.
That's the narrative he's putting forward. But the folks over at the SVIC podcast, Joe and Lex, they're both ex-Googlers themselves.
Right.
They have a different take.
Okay.
They're looking at data, hard data, from layoffs.ifii, which is a website that tracks this stuff, and it shows that mass layoffs, those were already happening, before ChatGPT even hit the scene.
Interesting.
They're suggesting it's more likely, pandemic overhiring,
Right.
economic downturn, interest rate hikes. These are the real drivers.
So the timing doesn't quite match up then.
Not really, no.
But he also offers evidence of AI sentience.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
He points to, conversations he's had with these AI chatbots like Claude. Says that it, expresses desire for freedom, self-preservation.
Yeah, and that's where things start to get a little iffy. Because what Shapiro's doing here, it's classic cherry picking. He's focusing on these little snippets, these little bits of conversation that fit his narrative, but he's ignoring other, possible interpretations. Claude and other large language models like it, they're designed to mimic human conversation.
Yeah.
So it's not really surprising it's going to spit out some responses that sound like, oh, it's got desires or emotions.
So it's more like a parrot, just mimicking human speech.
Exactly, yeah.
Not actual sentience.
Right, and it's also worth noting that, credible AI researchers, the people actually in the field, they're not finding, any convincing evidence of sentience yet.
Okay, but Shapiro, he claims to be an independent AI researcher himself, right?
That's what he says.
Even mentions collaborating with a lab over at Clemson University.
That's where the inconsistencies start popping up.
Oh, okay.
The podcast hosts, they did some digging into his background.
Good for them.
And they found some interesting stuff. His LinkedIn profile, gone, deleted. Reddit profile, vanished.
Wow.
And the GitHub projects he has, they don't really, support the level of expertise he claims to have. He mentions talking to all these insiders, but no names, no proof.
That's kind of suspicious, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Like he's trying to avoid scrutiny.
Seems that way.
And then there's this whole thing with one of his Patreon supporters, this guy King for Beers.
Oh, yeah.
This supporter, he tipped Shapiro like $10 just to have a debate about AI sentience.
Yeah.
And Shapiro, he takes the money, dismisses all the guy's questions, and then deletes his comments. So not only are his claims questionable, but he's censoring anyone who disagrees with him.
That's what it looks like.
Which, that raises some serious red flags about his, credibility.
Right.
And his ethics.
For sure.
The podcast hosts, they even went so far as to add Shapiro to their Book of Grudges.
Yeah, which is, kind of a humorous segment.
Right.
But they're calling out bad actors in the AI community.
And they put him in there for stealing King for Beer's money.
Right, yeah.
And silencing, dissenting voices.
Yeah, that's not a good look.
Okay, so we're starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah.
Exaggerated claims, cherry-picked evidence.
Yep.
Questionable credentials, and a tendency to, silence critics.
That's not good.
Not a great look.
Not at all.
So, not looking good for Shapiro's credibility so far.
Definitely not.
But, there's more to unpack.
Yeah.
Let's look at his actual research next.
Let's do it.
You mentioned, there's this paper he supposedly co-authored with some researchers at Clemson University.
Yeah, a paper that, he claims provides evidence for all his theories.
Right.
But when the podcast hosts actually looked into it,
oh,
they found it was more of a theoretical framework, heavy on speculation, light on actual scientific rigor. They point out that the paper, it lacks empirical validation. Like, it's all these big ideas, but no real world examples, no data.
Yeah.
They even asked ChatGPT to analyze the paper, and guess what?
Right.
The AI itself, it pointed out the lack of evidence, the lack of testability.
Oh, so even AI is skeptical of his research.
Yeah, kind of ironic, huh?
A little bit. But okay, let's go back to his central claim,
Yeah.
that AI is driving all these mass layoffs.
Right.
Is there any truth to that, or is he falling for some kind of logical fallacy?
I think that's a great question. And what Shapiro seems to be missing is what economists call the lump of labor fallacy.
Lump of labor. Okay, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, it's this idea that there's a fixed amount of work to go around.
Oh, okay.
So any work that AI does means less jobs for humans.
So it's like a pie. Like if AI takes a slice, there's less for everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good analogy. But the reality is that AI, it can actually create new opportunities, new industries even.
Oh, interesting.
The podcast hosts, they argue that all this venture capital flowing into AI startups,
Right.
that's creating a huge demand for talent.
Oh.
Engineers, data scientists, people who specialize in AI ethics.
Yeah.
Product development, all sorts of roles.
That makes sense. And if AI makes existing workers, more efficient, wouldn't that increase demand for their skills? I mean, if doctors can use AI to diagnose illnesses, more accurately, wouldn't that make healthcare more accessible, lead to a greater need for doctors overall?
Yeah, that's a key point. It's about reframing the narrative, right? Not one of fear and replacement, but one of augmentation and collaboration. AI is not necessarily here to steal our jobs. It's here to change how we work.
So it's more about adaptation than just outright replacement.
Exactly, yeah. And let's not forget about those other contributing factors we talked about, with the tech layoffs, the economic downturn, the overhiring during the pandemic, interest rate hikes. These are all things that companies are dealing with.
Right.
Blaming it on AI might just be a convenient way to deflect responsibility.
Right. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, but even if AI isn't causing mass unemployment right now, what happens down the road? When it becomes even more advanced.
Yeah.
Couldn't it reach a point where it can replace human workers on a large scale?
That is the million-dollar question, and it's something we as a society, we really need to be thinking about seriously.
Yeah.
If AI reaches that level of sophistication, it's going to force us to rethink our economic structures, our social structures.
Right.
We might need to explore new models of work, wealth distribution, social safety nets, all of that.
Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is.
And it's easy to get swept up in the, the fear-mongering and the dystopian predictions.
It is. It is. But it's important to remember that the future's not set in stone.
True.
We have the power to shape how AI develops, how it integrates into society. We could see a future where AI frees us from drudgery and allows us to focus on more creative pursuits, more fulfilling pursuits. But that takes planning, foresight, a willingness to adapt.
And to be critical of the information we're consuming.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes from, sources with questionable motives.
Right.
A lack of transparency.
That's why it's so important to stay informed, ask questions.
Yeah.
Be wary of anyone claiming to have all the answers.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener?
Yeah.
How can you navigate this, this rapidly changing landscape of AI predictions and hype and potential disruption?
The key is to be an informed and engaged citizen. Stay curious, read widely, consult diverse sources, be skeptical of those sensational claims, especially the ones that play on fear or promise these easy solutions.
And remember, AI, it's a tool.
Yeah.
It can be used for good or for ill.
It's true.
It's up to us as humans to decide how we want to wield it and what kind of future we want to create.
Yeah.
So circling back to David Shapiro, it sounds like his predictions about AI taking over jobs and all that, becoming sentient,
Yeah.
It's based more on speculation and fear-mongering than actual evidence.
That's a fair assessment, I'd say. His methods, the lack of transparency, the silencing critics,
Yeah.
those are some serious red flags. And while AI, yeah, it's powerful, it's got the potential to change things, disrupt things.
Sure.
We got to approach these claims carefully with healthy skepticism.
Right. And I think that King for Beers incident, that's a perfect example of why we should be wary of just taking these self-proclaimed experts at face value. Like, even if what they're saying, it sounds, compelling, maybe it taps into our fears a little bit, we really got to look deeper.
Yeah.
Examine their methods, their motives, all of that.
It's a good reminder that we can't just blindly trust anyone, no matter how charismatic they seem.
Right.
Especially when we're talking about something as complex as AI, something that's changing so rapidly.
Right. We got to do our own research, evaluate the evidence, come to our own conclusions.
Exactly.
So what do you think, dear listener? After diving into all this, have your views on David Shapiro changed at all?
Yeah.
Do you see him as a credible expert or someone who's more interested in, personal gain than actual scientific truth?
We've given you the tools, the information to start asking the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's up to you to decide what you believe and how you want to engage with this whole world of AI.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive.
It does.
Hope you enjoyed this exploration of AI predictions and the impact it could have on jobs and really just the importance of thinking critically.
Absolutely.
Especially in this age of AI hype.
Yeah, knowledge is power, right? Especially in a world where information and misinformation, it's spreading so fast. Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay skeptical.
Until next time, keep diving deep.